am absolutely thrilled that tonight we can take a look at some really positive news for particularly Mechanicsville, but Hintonburg and Wellington Village as well, as we are set to redevelop and refresh LarochePark, and particularly the field house, which I am obviously extremely excited about. This has been a long journey for both Fiona and I, who have been pressing the city on this with some regularity, and I'm thrilled to get here as quickly as we are, with huge help from Louise Severney, who is one of the lead, I guess, park planner on this, with Aaron and the rest of the city team, Anthony Bruni. I presume that Louise will introduce the project team that's working on it, but I will say thank you for getting us to this point. Louise and team are going to take us through a presentation tonight of the final version of LarochePark. It is final, so feel free to ask your questions about it, but we are at the, getting close to the point of tendering this project and building it. So the consultation phase is over, but this is the final form of it. Do welcome the questions, and Louise, let me turn it over to you.
Jeff, do you want me to do housekeeping first?
Oh, sure. Fiona, could you just let participants know how the evening will unfold?
For sure, no problem, Jeff. Hi, everyone. So before I turn it over to Louise, I just want to run through how tonight will go. So very shortly, Louise will introduce the team who's been working on this project over the past several years and update you on the plans. After that, we'll move into a Q&A. So the way Zoom works, the way we've configured this for our evening, is if you move your mouse to the bottom of your screen, you should see 3 buttons, the most relevant of which would be the Q&A button. So if you want to submit a question, you would click that button, type in your question, and then I have to wait to approve it. And then when I do approve it, there are 2 options. We can answer the questions out loud, or we can type an answer. So here's an example. I've clicked answer out loud. You should see the test question has popped up. A panelist would answer the question, and then I would click done, and the question is marked as having been answered. Let me just type in another one so you can see. So here's another question, and now I'm going to type the answer. The reason why we might type the answer is if we get a repeated question, something that maybe we've answered out loud before, or something that's just needs a typed answer, we may just throw in that typed answer instead of reading it out loud. As I go through the questions, I'm going to avoid repeated questions. So if we have a question about one thing and we've already answered it, and a few minutes later somebody's asked the same question, I'm going to avoid that question. We are recording this session and it will go onto our YouTube channel. So if you've come in halfway or you stepped away and you missed an answer to a question, you can watch the recording later. And then of course, as always, you can absolutely email our office to make sure that you get that information. Just for the sake of time, we don't want to be going over the same things over and over again. I'm also going to be paying attention to who's submitting the questions. So if you submit 3 questions in a row, there's no problem at all. I may just grab the first one and then go on to some other people who haven't had the chance yet before coming back to you. So hopefully that all sounds good. You can also communicate to us through the Q&A. So if you have a comment about something, even if it's not a question, you can submit it in the Q&A and we'll be able to see that. We can also send you some stuff through the chat function. So I'm just sending a little test message here. Hopefully you've seen that pop up. You can't respond in the chat, but we may, want to send a link or an email address or something relevant. If there's something relevant, we'll throw it into that chat so you have that there. But if you want to respond, you'll respond through the Q&A. We're not doing raised hands today. So I do see one raised hand. I'm not sure if it's intentional or not, but if you want our attention, just put your comment or question in the Q&A. So with that, I'm going to turn it over to Louise. Oh, you made it.
Thank you, Fiona. Welcome, everyone, and thank you very much for taking the time to join us this evening. I, too, wanted to thank a few people. First of all, the project team that has worked tirelessly over the last 2.5 years to get to this point tonight. Both the consulting team, Anthony Bruni, project architect, Marietta Rulin, project landscape architect, and David Nguyen from JP2G project engineer, and also Brooke Ibott from Wood, and the city team, Aaron Tate from the remediation unit, environmental remediation unit, sorry, Ed Feldkamp from IS Landscape Architecture, and Chris Vencheski from Infrastructure Services Architecture. The project would be, anyway, it's been a great team to work with. I'm really proud of everybody and really honored to work with so much expertise. I also wanted to thank the Councillor and Fiona for your constant support, and also to the Mechanicsville community for your patience. I know this is a long time coming, and you have been so supportive and so generous. So thank you very much. So I've introduced you to the project team, and this is the agenda for this evening. We will review a little bit of the project background, go right into the community comments from the meeting of October 2018, and then we'll go into the presentation by the consulting team. Just to give you a bit of the background, this project, Parks and Facilities Planning officially started the project in 2017, March of 2017. And the first stakeholder group meetings occurred in 2018. Our first public consultation occurred in July of 2018, and the second consultation in October of 2018. The comments on the following slides were from all of the comments and questions and requests that occurred over those two meetings. And we responded as best as we could, given the budget, the time, the site, and the challenges with the site. The overall park request was the feel of the park, providing lots of open space, renewing the baseball diamond, providing a rink, a basketball court, and playground, splash pad, and of course a new building. The community also requested lots of additional tree planting, pathways, and accessibility throughout the park and the building. With the remediation, it gave the city the opportunity to, in fact, renew the entire park. So not only the building, but also the baseball diamond, formalizing the ultimate field, lighting both fields, providing a brand new basketball court and a basketball key. The court is a full-size court. A beautiful open space, which would also be used as a seasonal space in the summer as a multi-purpose green space, and in the winter as the location for the skating rink. The new building will accommodate both lots of activities indoors with two multi-purpose rooms, a kitchen, lots of storage, and mechanical, as well as washrooms. We've also included change rooms, which are accessible from the exterior to accommodate seasonal activities in the park, which include the outdoor rink in the wintertime. There's also a washroom inside the change room. And then the summer programming will also have access to the change room and the washroom. There's a storage area for the rink hoses and other outdoor programming, and also a mechanical room. The playground has been renewed. The splash pad will maintain its current location and infrastructure. The community building has been built to meet future needs, and with a lovely kitchen, and also windows that open, which was a very important request from the community 2 years ago, and as we've seen this year, how important it is, given the current state that we're in with COVID. We've responded to dogs in park. Right now, the park is allocated dogs allowed, but as the park's dogs bylaw requires residents to heed to, the dogs are not permitted within 5 meters of the playground or splash pad. So that hasn't changed at all. We've provided accessible parking in front of the building and pathways, paved, formalized, accessible pathways from the street as well to the building. We are still investigating the opportunity to designate parking spaces on the street for the park users only, specifically the building. And we'll inform the community when we get a response from the street. I will now introduce Erin Tate, who will take you through the renewal and remediation aspect of the project.
Great, thanks, Louise. So for those of you who may have seen me speak back in the 2018 public consultations, not much has changed in terms of the overall remediation plan that was presented at those meetings a couple years ago. So if you could go to the next slide, Louise. So just some overall context of, perhaps the history and changes in use that have occurred at LarochePark and the surrounding lands. These are some photos from the 1920s through the 60s and 70s up until the early 90s. Certainly the residential areas to the west and south have been there for quite some time, but LarochePark itself, as you may have heard from my past meetings, was a former landfill site. Originally, Cave Creek ran through the center of the park and discharged out to the Ottawa River. At one point, to sort of improve the effluent quality of that creek discharging to the river, they built that rectangular structure you see in the center of the park in the 1929 photo. So that was sort of a septic tank system that was built and later abandoned and filled in. You can also see to the north what is now the old city works yard across Bayview Station Road. Was originally partially a bay that opened into the Ottawa River, was later filled in, was used for some time as a sawmill, and then converted to the city work yard. So by the 1965 air photo, you can see much of the park was as we know it today. The field house was constructed by that point. There was a seasonal rink, obviously, just beside it. You can see down in the 1976 photo that there was originally at one point 3 ball diamonds on the property, wading pool at the north end. And then by 1991, we sort of see most of the park as it appears now. LarochePark officially opened in 1926. Was when it was first established. Can you go to the next slide, Louise? So this is just some site history about the environmental condition of the property. As I mentioned, shortly after amalgamation, the City of Ottawa implemented something called the Old Landfill Management Strategy. And it was attempts to identify and look at all of the old closed landfill sites that existed across all of the former townships and cities that came together at amalgamation. So that was done in 2004. At the time that study was done, it was thought that landfilling activities were primarily limited to that old septic tank location that was filled in between 1928 and 1932. You can see to the right a photo of the park taken in 1927 where the septic tank is still present, but you can see the start of sort of park activities to the north. We did an investigation in that southeast portion of the park around the old septic tank and didn't identify any immediate concerns at that time related to the old landfill. But fast forward about a decade, as we started to look at redevelopment of portions of the site, we did a park-wide investigation around that time. And we found that there was waste fill more widespread throughout the park than originally thought. And that waste fill is typical of the type of landfill that operated at that time. So this was a landfill that operated in the 1910s through the early 1920s. So it contains a lot of ash and cinders, you know, byproducts of combustion and coal use that was predominant at the time. We also see a lot of glass, metal, brick, and porcelain. We did some additional research around this time to sort of understand, and we started to find more records discussing this old Stonehurst Avenue dump, which is what the clip to the right is from the Ottawa Journal at that time. And that article mentions that the dump was closed in 1923. During some of the past presentations, some of the residents have raised the possibility that there may be methane, which is generated from decomposition of organic material, which is something we might see in landfill sites. This site itself is quite old and over 100 years old now. And we put methane probes throughout the park in 2017, just as a precautionary measure to address this. And we didn't find any significant concentrations from that monitoring program we did then. Can I have the next slide, Louise? So in conjunction with Louise and the Park Renewal Project, we're going to take the opportunity to implement something called an environmental risk management plan. I mean, obviously we can't, it would be really difficult and not feasible for the city to excavate all of the impacted material that was placed there back in the 1910s and 20s. So what we do instead with older landfills such as this is do something called soil capping. And that involves placement of at least a ½ meter of clean imported material placed over something called a geotextile fabric. And we put that geotextile fabric down for a couple of reasons. It helps us separate the clean material from the impacted material that we're going to leave in place below. And it also acts as a demarcation layer should somebody come to do work in the park, say they're excavating a new tree, you know, a hole for a tree, or maybe fixing an underground utility. They'll see that orange geotextile layer, and then they'll be able to know where they're getting to the bottom of the clean layer and getting into the impacted material left below. The top right hand is a photo of another capping project we did recently in the past couple of years. This one is at New Edinburgh Park, and you can see that geotextile layer being placed and the new material being put above. So one thing I just wanted to flag as part of this, because we have quite a bit of like topography changes, so changes in the surface grade across the site, one of the things we're going to try and do is minimize the amount of soil, impacted soil that we're taking off site and trucking to, you know, a new landfill site like our Trail Road landfill. We're going to take some of the impacted material that we're excavating and rebury it across the site to sort of make some more level surfaces. And in particular, we're going to do this across the south end of the site where we're trying to create a new level ultimate frisbee field and softball field. And then again, everything will have the new clean ½ meter of soil placed on top. In some areas, we will be excavating deeper trenches, and some of that is for the planting of new trees. You can see the little diagram at the bottom right. And so this sort of shows the clean ½ meter layer that will be going across the site, but then how we envision sort of some deeper tree pits going in at the site. We will have an environmental consultant retained that will be on site for the duration of the project when there's soil excavation and capping. They'll be there to make sure that the environmental risk management plan is being conducted as we had spec'd out. We'll be asking the contractor to have a dust control plan and a traffic management plan in place. Our goal with this project is to have all truck traffic entering the site at the northeast corner off of Bayview Station Road, and then having trucks go south along Bayview Station Road to minimize the amount of traffic through the residential neighborhood. And then following this, we've done this on a number of other sites throughout the city. And so we do go back regularly to those sites and do annual inspections to just make sure that that soil cap that we've put in place is continuing to serve its purpose and is in still good condition. So that's the extent of the remediation work that's going to happen as part of this project. And thanks very much, Louise.
Great, thank you very much, Erin. The next slide will be just to give you an idea of the surrounding area. For those of you who weren't able to attend the October 2018 meeting, these were images taken by members of the consulting team of the river's edge and more the nature around LarochePark. And these images were provided by Kavitsabuni Architects as part of the historic fabric of Mechanicsville, from the housing stock, some of the housing stock, to the great lumber yards. And you can see those in the background here, stacks of lumber waiting to go down the river or be shipped away on railways. I'll introduce you to Marietta Ruland, who will provide the bit of the background and park master plan development and the final plans. Marietta?
Okay, thank you, Louise. Yeah, I think go to the next slide here. This is a slide showing the existing condition of LarochePark. We have added or left some of the topographical areas on here so that you can see at the southwest corner where the cursor is that there's quite a grade change. And there's quite a grade change along that portion and along the south side. The rest of the park is very flat. Not a lot of drainage in where the existing softball and ultimate fields are. Excuse me. We also can see where the existing community center is, existing basketball court. And then right now the ultimate frisbee is just sort of taken a spot between the two infields, so more or less where it would fit. We also did a good look at the existing vegetation with the city foresters, forestry department, to review all the existing trees, figure out what shape they're in, and for the most part, we think we're keeping all the trees that are in very good shape. There might be a couple that we can't, but for the most part, those are relatively small trees that we would either transplant, or if they were not in good enough shape to transplant, we will replace those. So I guess we should go to the next slide, Louise. Okay, so this is sort of a history of where we started with the community consultation. We did a quick schematic, originally trying to figure out the best spot to put the amenities. We looked at putting the building sort of in the center of the park with parking to the right and the rink, in the middle of the park. The play amenities, basically where they are in concert with the existing trees. And this evolved through a lot of comments from the community as to what's the best access for the amenities. And then we came up with the revised plan back in 2018, where the new community center is now, or community building is now, where the existing basketball court is, with parking to the right of that. That really sort of separates the north and south of the park, where the south end is the playing fields of softball and frisbee, give you a nice big open space. At that point, we still had the Sens rink, so the rink was up near the east end, but with a strong connection to the building. And then on the north end, we have the expanded play area surrounded with existing and proposed trees. And this plan here shows you where we are, not the proposed plan, but shows you what we're doing in terms of park removals and salvage. Things that we are salvaging at this point is the existing gazebo, the existing splash pad, and as you can see in the dark green, a very large proportion of the major trees on the park, which we found is very important. As I mentioned before, we did go through these with the forestry department, and most of the trees you see in orange along the south and east property lines are trees that are not in very good shape. And so these are slated to be removed by the city forestry department, but we will be placing new trees in these locations also. There are a couple of trees. I don't know if you can go back to that slide, please. I'm not sure if it's shown there, but we do know that there is a commemorative tree, and I believe that is not that one, Lise, but the one above that. Yeah, there, exactly. And that tree is slated to be transplanted in an appropriate spot for that. And I think all the trees in that sort of light green are I think there's 4 or 5 trees in total that will be transplanted. And so that we'll have to sort of work out. We want to transplant them. Maybe go to the next slide and discuss the transplant locations. You'll see that there are some trees with TR on it, and those will be the transplant trees. So there are 6 shown in here. We've picked spots where we know there will be no further disturbance, like within the existing trees. There's no reason after we've done the transplanting and worked on the remediation, there's no reason to go back there, so that we can do that at the beginning of the construction. And also up at the east of the basketball court, there also wouldn't be any further disruption to those trees. So the timing and feasibility of transplanting works out quite well. I'll probably go over sort of very quickly the numbers of the park. Trying to find number 1. Oh, one's the parking lot, sorry. So that's the new parking lot to the new building. It shows 2 accessible handicap spots and 1 standard spot. Number 2 is the outline of the new building. And 3 is sort of the amenity space around the building, the entrances, and it has a little bit of soft vegetation areas. Number 4 is the hard surface area. So we have a very generous front courtyard. And where the number 4 is, we have a very generous patio at the back, which can also serve as to the kitchen in the wintertime, I think. And I guess Anthony will go over that a bit more, but we do have a good connection with the interior kitchen here. And also there is an overhang, so there will be partially shade in that area too. In the middle of the sun, middle of the day. Sorry. Number 5 is, where's number 5? Pathways. So we have a pretty straightforward pathway connection, but we do want to make sure that we do have a very easy way to get around to all the different amenities in the park, plus also allowing for the city maintenance vehicles to access the amenities areas and maintain those spots. So these pathways are a minimum 2.4 meters wide with heavy duty construction, so that they will hold up to the use that they'll receive. Number 6 is the existing splash pad, which will remain as is. We will be adding an asphalt apron around that so that people can walk around the splash pad without getting wet, and also have some seating areas close by so that parents can be with their kids watching. 7 is the existing gazebo. What we'll do is we'll extend the existing base to the gazebo to join it to the pathway, so that there is a good connection to the gazebo. And its location in the new plan actually works out really well in terms of proximity to the building, proximity to the play amenities, plus proximity to the green open space, so that we have the ability to have it geared towards play and geared towards family gatherings, any kind of social gatherings, any kind of free type of use in the park. So it's very useful. That existing location works out really well. Number 8 is then the open spaced area that we're talking about that allows any kind of use in the summer for any kind of social gatherings. And that could be anything from bocce ball or a small soccer game, picnic, etc. And also for any kind of classes, outdoor classes that could be entertained here. Number 9 is the new play areas. And so we have 9A is the swings. So we have the swings more or less in the same location as the swings are now, but further from the existing trees. So there is no issue with the safety areas abutting tree trunks, which I think they're very, very close right now. Number 9 is the new junior and senior play areas. Like right now, there's only a small junior play area, but we have very extensive junior and senior plus a climbing apparatus in there. So that you'll see later on that's quite an exciting new play area. And number 10 is the full basketball court. So that's will be built to city standards. And also 10A is a basketball key. So then we'll, so excuse me, so just for pickup ball, be able to be used here also. Okay, so this is sort of a blow up of this area. It's probably a little bit easier to see what's going on here in terms of the parking building, the existing trees, and also what we didn't get to yet was the new outdoor rink area, number 11. And very nice close proximity to the building. We've got permanent lights. The lighting there will not be in the way of any sort of summer use, which is terrific also. So you're not going to have light standards in the middle of a field you might want to enjoy in the summer. Very close to the change areas to access for that in the summer, or in the winter, sorry. The other thing you can see here quite clearly is the dark green existing trees and the lighter green proposed trees. So you can see that we're really filling out the park with new trees. So when these existing mature trees start to age in, probably not in my lifetime, but when I'm retired, the new trees will start to grow and fill in so that you will always have that feeling of a grove in the center part, in that portion of the park. So we should go to the next slide, please. This shows the sports amenities in a little bit better detail. So the existing or the new softball field is actually in pretty much the same location as the existing softball field. But of course, we'll have an updated backstop and will be built to the city standards for I believe it's a junior softball that we've shown in this layout. Although we know that balls will go further, but we do have we don't have anything in the way of any balls going further. The frisbee, at least I didn't call it volleyball this time. The frisbee field, ultimate frisbee field, now has a very defined spot for it, and is to regulations. Plus will be lit. Now these lights are aimed directly at the frisbee field, so it's not going to be going into the neighborhood. They are LED, so they're very, very directional and not the type of lights that you're seeing at this point in time. Also, the softball will receive new LED lights that are a lot more directional than the lights that are there now. I guess we can go to the next slide. So this one in black and white just gives you a bit of an outline of what's there. We can sort of take a look at the pathway system, and a little bit easier to see what's going on there. I'm not sure there's much more to say about this slide. Maybe we can go to the next slide. So the new elements we're showing in the park, the new community building, accessible parking lot and pathways, new park furnishings and park sign, As you've seen, we are prioritized the attention of the existing trees, so that all the major trees are going to be kept. We have taken especially great care in the remediation and not doing the standard remediation. We've worked with Erin's group very closely in coming up with a good detailing and methods to preserve these trees and allow for the proper remediation, but still be able to preserve these trees and not damage the root system. And the City Forestry Department also would be keep an eye on making sure that things are done properly. So new tree planting and landscaping. So apart from the existing trees being preserved, we'll be adding a very lush new tree planting. We get new benches, new picnic tables, so new furnishings. The recreational amenities. So we know the North Softball Diamond's been decommissioned. We'll renew the South Softball Diamond. New ultimate frisbee field with lighting, so that's now a standard size. New basketball court, standard size and a key. And a seasonal rink with permanent lighting. The play structures, there's a real exciting part of the park because in comparison to what's there now, so we have new play structures, new swings, and introduction of a sand play area. So we should go to the next slide. So park amenities, we have basically really focused on open space family gatherings, making allowances for any kind of different types of activities that the community wants to partake in. There's lots of free open space that's not delineated for particular use. We've got the recreational softball, existing splash pad, frisbee, hockey, basketball, and then the park furnishings that will be added. So next slide. So this is a 3D rendering of the play structures. In the foreground, you'll see the senior play structure. Behind that, there's the climbing apparatus. And in the center back, you'll see the sand play, but it's not shown very easily here. But what we've looked at is a pretty interesting sand play component, and also looking at using having some items that you can dig in the sand. So whether it's a seashells or a dinosaur or skeleton or something of that nature that kids, not a human skeleton, definitely not, but maybe a dinosaur skeleton that the kids can dig up and explore. And then also have the junior play structure that's on the right-hand side. Now, one thing you'll notice about these structures is that we've taken elements from the community, from the sort of housing types, and I think that's what fit in really well with both the senior and junior play structures, and the coloring of the structures also would fit in really well with sort of a green for natural, the sort of the teal blue to sort of have that stand out. Plus, we probably will be adding a little bit of punch color, probably orange or red added to this, so there'll be an occasional color, sort of bright colors to bring to liven the structures up. Yeah, so there's a terrific amount there. All right, so I think that's enough for me at this point, Louise.
Thank you very much, Marietta.
Okay, no problem.
We'll now have Anthony take you to the building and a tour through the building.
Okay. I mean, this first image just is will keep sort of re-emerging, but the part of the inspiration for the community building. If anybody was at the presentation we did a couple of years ago, was inspired by the geographical history of this area, and really inspired on the left-hand side by the rock formations around the Ottawa River and what would have been where LarochePark is now at one point, and the striations in the rock, the interesting formations, the outcroppings, but also inspired by some of the evolution that happened over time with just some of the man-made interventions, one of them being the lumber yards and sawmills that were adjacent to LarochePark. And then also the smaller, simple housing of the original housing stock of Mechanicsville. So all these things sort of influenced and played a part in the inspiration of the community building. You go to the next slide. This is just a breakdown of all the various rooms and program that had evolved over the years. This was evolved a lot based on community feedback, and primarily what we have are two multi-purpose rooms. Is the main multi-purpose room, which is 86.5 meters squared, almost 900 square feet. The secondary room, which is a smaller multi-purpose room. We have a kitchen, which from where we started, I think has doubled in size. We have rink change rooms, and then we have a general storage spaces, your functional mechanical rooms, washrooms. We have a coat mud room at the entry. We had introduced a universal washroom. We have a washroom off the change room, entry vestibules, and then basically just the more utilitarian spaces. The gross building area is about 420 meters squared, which is about 4,500 square feet. We'll go to the next. These are some of the original plans, and to the left was the original sort of scribble sketch that we did. That really inspired the first notion of this building, sort of inspired by those rock outcroppings, and sort of seeing this as this playful, fragmented form emerging from the park, rather than it being this sort of static, monolithic building. So it's fragmented into smaller parts. That's really what the spirit of the building we're trying to capture. And then to the right is a sort of evolution of the plans, and where we started. And primarily things had not changed a whole lot in terms of this organization, which is good. The main idea here was trying to arrange this in a way so that the entry and circulation spaces and the multi-purpose rooms, so the blue and the orange, really the spaces that you really spend time in and will get the most are the real celebrated spaces in the building, have a strong connection to the park. And that was important, that they don't become internalized, and then the building being surrounded by the service spaces. What we did was shift the service spaces around so that the main spaces will have strong connections to the park with lots of views, lots of natural sunlight. And we could go to the next. And this is where the building is now. So again, the general organization is the same. However, obviously you can see the forms have changed a bit. Some areas have grown, and I'll take you for a quick walk through. We enter from the south, and you have a vestibule, and then north of that is this entry hall, which now functions. You see in the original plan, this was blue. It was considered a circulation space, but we widened it, and we extruded the roof at that point as well, to create this series of this clear story above, to create almost a third multi-purpose space. So this can be used as a partial gathering place as well. As you move north towards the circulation space, the blue, which takes you east towards the multi-purpose room. And you can see the multi-purpose room is substantially glazed to the south, facing the Frisbee fields and the baseball diamond. And then if you were to take that blue circulation space to the west, the secondary room has large windows looking out towards the heavy treat area and the playground. And the circulation space itself that is in blue there is pretty much all glazed. facing the playground and the park. So as you can imagine, as you enter the building, you're seeing right through the building, through those, into the heavy treat area, and then through to the playground and the splash pad. So again, these views are really to make strong connections when you're within the building to the park. I know a lot of these field houses tend to be very internalized and very without a lot of presence in the and connection to the park. We felt it was important that this building play that role and bring the park almost into the building. The yellow is all the service spaces. So that little blue area to the west of that sort of entry hall is, or to the south of the entry hall, sorry, is the basically a hallway that connects you to the universal washroom, the male and female washroom, and then obviously the janitor room and mechanical room. So this hallway takes you into some of these service spaces. And then further to the left here, we have the storage for the secondary multi-purpose room. And then on the other side of that entry hall, when you walk in, you have the coat room just above the vestibule. We have a storage room to the left of that, and that is accessed off the multi-purpose room. And then we have a general office that is accessed off the main circulation hall. And then off that circulation space as well is a large, as you can see, quite a large kitchen with a large center island. The idea here is there could potentially be, with some of the children's programs and that potentially have, cooking classes and other things, and that can happen. And that kitchen can really serve a lot of purposes. It also has a pass-through window to the multi-purpose room and a pass-through window to the outdoor porch. And that dotted line to the left of the kitchen that sort of runs along the circulation space is a canopy which covers the outdoor porch, which you can see the access off of that main hallway. And this would be that community gathering place, that outdoor gathering place that Marietta mentioned. And again, has a strong connection to the building. It's all glazed along that edge, and you would see through the building to that covered area. And then to the north of the kitchen, we have the rink change room that you can see is accessed off the northern edge of the building. We have a washroom off the change room and a storage room off the change room. We have another storage room off the multi-purpose room to the north of it. And then those last few spaces up there is a hose room for the rink, a snowblower and shovel room for maintaining the rink. And then we have an electrical room up there as well. And that's generally the sort of functional aspects of the building and how the spaces have evolved and unfolded over time. And where we arrived at now. And then you can also see some of the skewed forms that, had begun started to take shape as we sort of tried to really keep with the inspiration of that sketch to the left. We'll go to the next slide. So this is the building as it has evolved to now. And you can see the series of fragmented forms and skews. The multi-purpose rooms are the taller forms with the slanted roofs. The other taller form in the middle is that entry hall space with the clear stories coming up above. And basically you could see how the instead of it being sort of one monolithic building, it's fragmented into a series of smaller playful forms. And as we move to the next slide, it takes you down to seeing it from what you would see from the ground. And this is a view from basically the Frisbee and Ball Diamond area. So this is to the south side of the building. These sort of fragmented forms, very playful, and lots of glass, lots of light, strong connection to the park. And we have sort of the horizontal lines of the pre-finished wood to sort of really capture that those horizontal stacks of lumber to sort of bring back that into the building, and the general form again inspired by the sort of rock outcroppings of this area. We could move on to the next slide. And this is as you move around the building. The image to the top is from the southeast. That's the tallest form in the middle would be the multi-purpose room. To the right is the change room and some of those functional spaces, the snowblower room and hose room. And to the left of that taller form is the covered entryway into the building. And the lower left image is sort of looking at it from the gazebo area. There's a series of sort of playful pop-out windows. One is in the rink change room, the one to the left. You can see that large canopy, horizontal canopy that covers the rear porch. That is that rear porch area for community gatherings. The window there is to the kitchen, and then that large bank of glazing along that corridor. And then to the right is the second multi-purpose room, the last form to the right. And then this is looking sort of from Stonehurst, the next image, and that is the secondary multi-purpose room. And you could see again a better view of that sort of modern porch element, and again these sort of smaller playful forms. And we can move on to the next slide. And this is sort of taking you into the building. So this is standing in the vestibule, looking out through that entry hall. You can see the clear story above, sort of capturing the canopy of the trees, and bringing an abundance of light into the space, and then through the entry hall, into that little forest of trees, and then beyond that, you can imagine that's the playground and the splash pad. To the right, we have these, and you see them throughout the building, these horizontal slats of maple. And again, these horizontal slats that were brought in throughout the building is again inspired by the lumber industry and the adjacent sawmill, and to sort of capture some of that history and to bring some softness and warmth inside the building as well. There's a cantilevered bench there for seating. The window into the office is above that. And then to the left is a community bulletin board. And then you could see these couple hints of orange. And we wanted to introduce a vibrant splash of color, and thought that since the Mechanicsville Community Association logo, the color of orange, to try and bring that the community association and that element of it back into this building, but bring it into a playful way. So you'll see these splashes of orange occurring throughout the building. Go to the next slide. So the upper image is standing in that glazed corridor, looking back towards the front entrance, and you can see again these slats of wood, these splashes of orange, the clear story seeing up to the canopy of the trees, and the bulletin board to the right. The doors to the left are into the main multi-purpose room, and then that furthest door to the left would be into the kitchen. The bottom image is again standing in almost that same spot, but now looking back towards the secondary room. There's a white niche there for the water fountain, and again this series of these moments of orange and the wood, and the gray slate floor is really picking up on again the sort of rock and that element, that bluish gray natural stone you see around the Ottawa River. So the idea is we have a tile selected that would sort of capture that, and this would all be sort of porcelain tile in this area. And then the next image is sort of an overall, again, looking back through those spaces. And again, sort of this play of this wood the stone on the floor and the play of orange glass and sunlight, and really a lot of the whitish drywall forms that of the walls and that again are there to accentuate the sunlight that'll be coming in and to really allow the shadows to play off the walls, and using very strategically colors to allow the sunlight and shadows to become another sort of playful element in the space.
Anthony, sorry, it's Fiona over here. I really don't want to interrupt your presentation for your beautiful building, but I would like to move on to the Q&A in about 5 minutes, if that's okay.
Okay, I think I'm pretty close to being done here. The next image. Is there anything else? Oh yeah, so now we're into the multi-purpose room. So we have a type of rubber flooring that for play and for impact and for sound in there, and we were going with the sort of deepish blue color, the blue picking up on the Ottawa River, and then again a play of the slats on the walls, and we have this. You can see the sort of skylight element, the sort of pop-up window that sort of fragments up into this into the slanted ceiling. The roof is slanted here, and then the ceiling would be slanted as well to follow that slope. And so you really get this sort of dynamic thrust towards the park, where we would have now a new series of trees planted there, and then beyond the trees would be the ball diamond and the frisbee, and you can imagine the amount of light and that sort of, you can see how well connected this space is to the park. And the next slide. And again, these are just from two other positions in the room. So this is looking back more towards Stonehurst and west towards the ball diamond. Again, you can see that skylight element above, and the views to the trees, and again this play of these wood slats, and then the lower image is just looking back towards the door and towards the kitchen, and up into that skylight. And I believe that was it for the images, right?
Yes, I think so.
Okay, and I think that's it, and I think I'll let Louise take it from here.
Great, thank you very much, Anthony, Aaron, and Marietta. So we'll just quickly walk through the process and what will happen next, and what has happened. So we have done the review. This is the final consultation. It's really more of an information session. There won't be any changes to the site plan or the building unless there are small details. We're working on the tender drawings now, which we're trying to get out as soon as possible. We are, we've heard today that the tree removal, as per the plan that Marietta and Aaron and Nancy Young from Forestry have prepared, the tree removal will take place as early as November or December. We are trying to do this year rather than wait until the spring when nesting season starts. The rink will be operational throughout 2021, so next winter. And the construction will begin in the spring of 2021. The playground will be completed next fall, and the building will be completed in 2022. The ball diamonds and ultimate fields, because we need to establish the turf, which needs to take one full growing season. And again, depending on what type of weather we have, they will reopen in spring of 2023. The project will be completed in 2023. Thank you very much. And now we'll go to the questions and answers, and followed by the final comments from the councillor.
Okay, thanks so much, Louise and team. So I am going to move to the Q&A. There may have been some confusion. We had some typed answers provided, but I'm just going to go over those questions and make sure that everyone's seeing the response to them, and then if any of the panelists want to comment further. One of the early questions we had is, will the list of Q&As from this thread be available along with the recording after? So we can try. I'm not sure how to do that. Jeff has said we can, so we'll discuss it. But at the very minimum, the recording will be. The recording just doesn't pick up this Q&A function, so I'd have to figure out how to pull out that data. But we'll work on it.
I'll do a copy paste job
Okay.
before we close it. So don't close it down before I have a chance to do that. Thanks.
Okay. Okay. So first question, how much is the cleanup cost? How much is the cleanup cost?
Erin, would you like to answer that?
Yeah, sorry, just finding the unmute button. So the environmental remediation unit within the city is contributing $2.7 million towards the project, and that's to cover the remediation work. So the excavation, the reworking of the material across the site, and the installation of the clean cap. And along with that comes other things. You know, we're taking down trees to do some of the remediation work. We're also planting new trees as part of that. So there's some other costs that go into the overall park project that do come out of my account as well.
Okay, thank you, Erin. Also, what is the yearly maintenance budget for the park?
So I'm not sure if that's the overall maintenance cost or like the follow-up maintenance cost from the remediation. The two were asked one after the other.
Yeah, I think that's the cost to maintain, you know, how much have we budgeted to maintain the park on a go forward basis?
Oh.
And that's wrapped up with, you know, these are the parks planners. That's a political decision to give the parks department money for maintenance every year. It is, in my view, never enough, but that's a decision that council makes at the high level. How much do we put into parks maintenance with each and every budget?
Okay, thank you. Are the types of trees negotiable? It would be beneficial to have fruit trees in the park. This in time will feed abnormally aggressive squirrels and other wildlife that reside in the area. Other food sources for the animals will lessen damage in people's gardens.
Okay, I can answer that partially. I know that, and maybe Erin also, there was a concern sometimes of growing fruit trees because of the contaminated soil. Erin, with the type of remediation we're doing around the trees, is that a concern at all? I know it's not going to be human food, right? It's just basically for animals, like a crab apple as opposed to a fruiting apple tree. I'm assuming that we're not going to be fruiting apple trees that people would pick and eat themselves. It's more for squirrels to munch on.
Yeah, so we know that trees do have some natural barriers within them to prevent uptake of contaminants. The contaminants on this site are primarily metals and something called polycyclic aromatic hydrocarbons. So PAH is for short. I know, I had to throw a big word in there tonight. They're basically a byproduct of combustion. So those are the two main classes of contaminants at this site. You know, although trees do have natural barriers, it isn't zero risk. When we do fruit trees that are intended to be, you know, for human consumption, like orchards, we generally work with our environmental consultant to design sort of larger tree pits. So the tree and the entire root ball of that tree is sort of living in clean imported material. So that's not something we've explored doing at this site. Maybe it's possible. We'll have to discuss that further with the parks planners. I know sometimes the parks, you know, staff don't always love having fruit-bearing trees in parks sometimes, but it's something we could potentially explore.
Mm-hmm. I guess for nut-bearing trees might be another, because people tend not to gather the nuts and eat them, but the squirrels would. So that'd be another possibility.
Okay, thank you. Does this have a ramp for disabled? I'm wondering if they mean the field house.
The whole building is actually accessible, as is the playground. So there are no ramps. Even the wood fiber fall surface in the playground is accessible. So the whole park and building are completely accessible.
Awesome, thank you. Will there be a covered space at the building folks can park their stroller under when they visit for playgroups or workshops, etc.?
Yes, I think there's a few of them. The front entrance does have a recessed covered area with a sort of recessed area to the side where strollers can be parked when someone comes to the building. So you have your entry and that's covered, but then off to the side, there's a sort of other little niche, which is a perfect spot for strollers and things like that, that can be left. And obviously if someone's on the playground side, there's the covered porch area with the canopy and above it. And, you know, again, that way, if you're using the playground or the splash pad, things can be covered and off to the side, but you would still have full view of them from the playground.
Okay, thank you. Will there be anything done to the windows to make them bird friendly? Would hate to see birds flying into the higher windows. Maybe not an issue, but thought I'd check in about that.
Well, we're currently developing the window specs, so that's something we can definitely look into.
Thank you. Okay, what is the timeline for the work to be started and when will it be completed?
Yeah, so I'll go back to shared screen. I can figure out how to do that. Let's see. So the project, we will be tendering the project this year. So towards the end of the year, we will have the bids come in and the work will not start until next year. And the construction has to begin after half loads. So that means large trucks, either for the remediation work or any of the construction work will start after that, which is usually the middle of May. And the building will be completed in the spring of 2022, and the park, the playground may be open in the fall of next year, 2021, but the whole project will be completed in 2023.
Thank you. There was a similar question, so I'm going to consider that answered. Okay, I think I saw a space for community gardens on the plan. So will there be an external hose on the building for garden hose use? An external hose bib. Sorry, I'm not familiar with this term.
Yes, there will be.
Okay, awesome. Okay, is the permanent rink no longer a future option?
Yes, we opted for the community's desire to have a lot of green space. And I think it was Marietta who mentioned that a permanent rink really only becomes a hard surface with hard surface activities in the summertime and in the winter. And from the comments from the community, the majority of residents have asked for as much green space as possible. To install a permanent rink would take away from that.
Okay, and on that note, someone else is asking, why was the Suns rink removed from the plan? And will the seasonal rink be the same as what's currently installed? And they add, no opposition, just curious.
I'll answer the first question, and Councillor, if you'd like to finish up with the Suns rink. The rink will be the size of the current rink and with permanent lighting. Our operations staff will come and set up the boards as they do now every year. And the rink hoses will be stored in the building right off the rink, as well as the snow blowing equipment and the change room area.
I would just say the Sens rinks were a developer, like tower developer, Brazil and those folks. It was a developer and city partnership to build a number of these. Before I got elected, the plan was to put one of these Sens rinks in Overbrook. That plan changed sort of without a lot of notice at the last minute, just ahead of the last election in 2014. When the cleanup costs associated and the soil remediation costs were associated with putting a Sens rink into Mechanicsville were fully explored by staff, they found that it was going to be really susceptible to frost heave, and it was going to cost a lot more. And so the developer who was involved in the city wound up putting that rink back in Overbrook. I have subsequently done a really long, broad consultation with the community about how should we spend our cash in lieu dollars. So there's a significant contribution into this project that's being made through the cash in lieu funds that we had a big community consultation about over the past several years. And the clear priority for the community, not just Mechanicsville, but all the other communities agreed as well, was to get the new field house built with those dollars, along with rejuvenating the rest of LarochePark. So it's got a long and complicated history. I am basically very, very comfortable that we are moving in the direction that the community itself wants, but no one was done any favors by that initial discussion around a Sens rink back in 2014, 2015. I think we're on a good path now, building something that the community wants to spend our cash in lieu dollars on. And I'm grateful to the city for sort of going over and above life cycle on this one by putting in some significant environmental remediation funds in order to make all this possible. I know the city has worked hard on the budget for this one. These urban parks are difficult. The city is going to be faced with more and more of these as the years go by, and our parks need refreshing. This is going to be one of the bigger examples of refreshing a field house, refreshing an entire park, where you have really significant remediation costs. So I'm excited that the city was able to come together to put this in. I'm excited that the rest of the ward agreed that this would be our priority for a really significant chunk of cash and meal money, and I'm comfortable that we are moving in a direction that the community wants us to.
Thank you.
Yep, thank you both. Okay. Is there a dog park in the plan?
We investigated different ways of trying to fit something in, and we haven't managed to do that simply because the ball diamond, the ultimate field, and the playground use up a lot of the space. We had proposed in previous plans a long running area, which I'm going to try and bring up on the screen here. I do this. So in this previous plan, we had proposed a dog area over here, and the response from the community was that it was problematic having a long dog run that was fenced off because of the different types, the different characters of dogs, and how dogs would feel trapped in such a narrow space. So we have followed the bylaw, which allows dogs in the park, with the exception of the area where the playground is. So dogs are not permitted within 5 meters of this area.
Okay, and there was a similar question, saying, is there a specific place for dogs, or will it be like it is now? And I think the answer is it's going to be the way it is now.
Yes. Yeah.
Perfect. Okay, somebody commented, I'm not sure what in regards to, maybe it's everything, but they say that is awesome. So thank you, that's great. Whatever you're responding to. Hopefully it's the whole plan, because the whole plan is pretty awesome. Okay, where will the users of the sports fields and other amenities park? There's very limited street parking in the vicinity.
Yeah, so we identified the parking along Bayview, which is available now, certainly. And there isn't a lot, there are a lot of parking spaces along the west side of Bayview in the evening. And as discussed before during the presentation, we have made inquiries about allowing parking on Stonehurst for park use only. And I think the concern that was brought up in one of the public meetings, either July or October, from the community was residents parking their cars during the day to take the train downtown or the bus. And so if we are able to get streets to allow temporary parking, it would be for park users only.
Okay, thank you. Next question. The building is empty now. Is it to sit empty till next spring?
Yes, so as mentioned during the presentation, we are tendering the project late this year with the tender being awarded hopefully before Christmas. And we will determine the schedule with the contractors as to when the project will start and what they will be doing first, which includes demolition and other things. So.
Okay, thank you. Will the basketball court have permanent lighting?
No, it won't.
Thank you. With regard to art installations, could we consider commissioning John Soprano, sorry if I'm pronouncing that wrong, to do a rock sculpture? He does the rock sculptures at Remick Rapids.
Yes, I think that's something we can discuss later on. There is an opportunity to speak to the community about public art on site as part of this project. I believe I mentioned that to the Mechanicsville Community Association. So whatever form that public art will take will be determined by the community. There may be other options, but it also depends on the budget that's allocated to the public art.
Thank you. Okay, just out of curiosity, how many participants are currently tuned into this session? So not counting my other laptop, and I think I see Louise has another device, there are 18 folks, and I recognize lots of folks' names from the Mechanicsville Community Association. And yeah, so there are 18 folks. A comment, those are the only washrooms in the park. Okay, thank you. And then in regards to the parking comment and question from earlier, what about parking for residents of Stonehurst and their visitors? Did someone want to respond to that?
I think I am not sure how where people park now. There is a building existing on the park site now. We are increasing the size, but the activities would be similar. And I'm not sure where people park now when they use the building. I'm not sure how much that would change either. Although there is parking, people tend to park, from what I've seen, all over the park now, in the building, off the access, off of Stonehurst. So I think they would be trying to park on the street somewhere. So where residents are parking now on the west side of Stonehurst, I believe they would continue to park.
Okay, thank you. Okay, will the other lights in the park turn off when there is no use on facilities? Currently, the lights are on for too long while no one uses the fields.
Yeah, so we've talked to operations about the timing and the use of the lights. We can set the timers so that people using the baseball diamond or the ultimate field can turn on the lights, and there could be an automated system that turns off the lights when they're finished. I know that comments from the community encouraged lighting to stay on, particularly in the winter when people are still walking their dogs later at night, and just to make the park safer. So.
But will the lights, if the lights are on to help the those who are exercising with their dogs in the park, those lights are going to be oriented differently than they are now, if I understand properly?
Yeah, so the baseball diamond lights, if you can picture a big LED fixture, it has multiple very small lights on it. And so each one of those individual lights can be oriented in any direction in order to accommodate the use. So for instance, the ball diamond lighting, each one of those little tiny bulbs within the fixture can be oriented to just shine on the ball diamond, and the same for the ultimate field, which means that there will be very little spillage outside of the ball diamond and ultimate field areas. And that is to accommodate the number of residents who had contacted us about all the light pollution with the old system. And
Yeah.
those lights have been there since the 1980s, so with very little ability to change the orientation. So these new lights are amazing in being able to provide really clear directional light.
Okay. Thanks.
Sorry, I'm muted. I said thank you. Okay, will there be a way for people with skates on the exit? Will there be a way for people with skates to exit the change rooms to get to the rink without stepping in asphalt?
In some of our city parks, we actually install rubber matting, and the same thing could be done here as well. So.
Perfect. A quick comment, I go to the park every day. It is mostly used by 1 kids playing basketball and 2 dog walkers. I think Louise is probably also aware of that after all the community consultations and discussions we've had. That definitely sounds very accurate. Are the porta potties going to be put in the park if there is a ring this year? If there's a rink this year? Does anyone know?
The building will still be open, minimally, I think. So I think people could still use the washrooms in the building until it's officially closed.
Let me talk further with some of our operational staff on that to try to sort that out. Fiona, can you remind me tomorrow?
Yeah,
Thanks.
for sure.
Thank you, Councillor.
I think there's a whole conversation to be had about winter rinks in general, so. this year. Okay, on the topic of lighting, will residents have access to turn on and off the lights like they do now?
Again, it's a new system that's going into the building, and we're working out the details of that. Residents will not, when the ball diamond is booked for use and the ultimate fields, those lights will stay on to accommodate the users. And so residents will not be able to turn off the lights during the play seasons. And again, during the winter, we have had very clear direction from residents to allow the lights to stay on in order to provide light for the dog walkers and for safety during that time. The bylaw allows for people to use the park until 11 o'clock at night, and then park's officially closed. So after 11, the light should automatically go off.
Okay, thank you. Okay, sorry. Any chance of a soft landscape path from the parking lot of St. Vladimir's for the seniors to access the park? Presently, seniors take their walkers onto Stonehurst Ave to access the LarochePark Fieldhouse, as there is no sidewalk on the east side of Stonehurst.
On Stonehurst, there's quite a steep incline, and it would mean creating a sidewalk on the streets property, the right-of-way, which is technically not Parks land. At the southeast corner of the park, we're almost at grade, and because we're going to be raising the grade uniformly across that south edge of the park, there may be an opportunity to open, to have a gate at that entrance to allow people to come in and out of the residence, because I am aware of the number of people from St. Vladimir's who come and use the park. And but the Stonehurst access, I think would just be too challenging, especially with soft landscaped pathway. Definitely on the southeast corner, we can investigate that to provide access from that point.
Okay, thank you. Love the field house design. Will there be storage for BBQ and propane tanks?
Anthony, can you answer that?
We could probably figure something out for that. We have, I believe it is 1, 2, 3, 4 storage rooms at this time. So we can see, I mean, it's a matter of how we use them and which one would be most appropriate to do that type of storage. I'm not sure what may be required for storing propane tanks. If we would need a special fire rating or not, but it's something we can discuss and see if there's if that's a priority. It's something it'll be something to see if we could work with the existing storage spaces.
Anthony, will the building have gas?
It will have gas.
So if I were to buy a grill,
they could potentially actually just run a natural gas line so that you don't need propane tanks.
Yeah.
And then the barbecue can be much lighter, and
yep.
And then something that can just be wheeled out when you need it. And if there's room somewhere in one of the storage rooms, and you don't have to worry about storing propane tanks.
Yeah, like I was thinking, if I bought a large enough gas grill that had the natural gas attachment, and there was natural gas accessible from the building. that might be a nice
Yeah,
easy way to
I
do
think
it.
the big thing for us would be figuring out where the shutoff would be
Yep.
for that to make sure it's not obviously accessible to the public. So we'd have to figure that out.
Can we continue that conversation with the community association, because they do host a number of events with outdoor grills, and we'd like to see that continue, obviously.
And I feel like Lori's been asking me for a barbecue for like 5 years. So when this building's done, they should have a barbecue for sure.
Yeah.
Okay. All right. I think I can chat with Chris about that tomorrow and see what we can do.
Fantastic. Thanks.
Okay, thank you. Should the lighting for the ultimate frisbee be located on the south side facing north? They don't shine so that they don't shine into the St. Vladimir senior residence.
Yeah, so as I mentioned before, the lights will, let's see if I can bring up this plan again. So the lights are here along the north side of the field. Can you see that? Can you see the lights where my cursor is?
Yeah, I can see those.
Okay, so the lights, the way they can design the lights is to ensure that the spillage doesn't go beyond the edge of the ultimate field. And the ball diamond lights will focus on the ball diamond. So there's very little spillage that would certainly occur from the ultimate field into St. Vladimir's. And the lighting, the direction for the ball diamond faces into the ball diamond. So very little spillage would occur beyond the ball diamond.
And if it was the other way around, then they'll be interfering with the use of the ball diamond.
Yes, so we couldn't place them here.
Perfect, thank you. Okay, we just have a few more questions. Will the park be fully fenced in?
Yes.
I won't be on the oops, I'll go back to this. So the fencing in the park runs along from about the edge of the patio along Stonehurst on the property line, around to Burnside and along Bayview, and then it's fenced along the NCC property and then along St. Vladimir's. But there's no fence along this section of Stonehurst.
Okay, thank you. A very nice comment. Thank you so much for your time and effort. Greatly appreciated. Excited to see the process. Thank you for that. And another one as well. The plan as a whole looks and sounds fantastic. Thanks to everyone involved. Thank you so much. Okay, another question just came in. You showed pictures of the proposed playground. I'm wondering what the swings will look like. Are they like the current ones? They are always in use. We like that style.
Marietta, could you?
Yeah, we have, we try to get as large a swing as we could, but still allowing for an accessible saucer swing. So we have 2 standard swings, 1 taut swing, and 1 saucer swing proposed. And yes, sorry, we did not include those in the presentation slides.
Is that roughly what you have in the new Reed Park? I don't know if you did that one.
No, I didn't.
No.
No?
Similar, but because of the trees, there's a bit of a height restriction here. We have to have the swing out area. It can't really go beyond so the wood fiber extends out. There's a safety zone. Let me just go to the drawing here. Sorry.
No worries.
can maybe look at the enlargement.
Yeah, there we go. Okay. Oops. There's the swing area, and the swings would be aligned to run this way. They can't extend beyond the engineered wood fiber edge. So the arc out can't extend beyond that. So the height depends on the arc depends on the height of the swing. So we're limited. They are not like the very large swings that are very high swings that are there now, but they're certainly not the small tot swings. So they're somewhere in between.
Yeah. There's also an additional safety zone beyond that where we cannot have any vertical element, which is why it's tricky to get larger swings in there because of the existing trees.
Thanks.
Okay, thank you. And the last question for tonight, will the opening in the fence off Bayview be maintained?
That opening is directly into the basketball area. And I'm not sure if, I'm not sure about the question.
Yeah, my understanding is that the opening almost coincides with the pathway we're showing for the basketball, and that's meant to stay open without a gate. If that addresses the question, I don't know.
Yeah, I think that there's an existing way to get into the park off Bayview, so I think they're asking.
Oh, will we keep it? Yes.
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah.
Fiona, there were a couple other questions still open.
Oh, okay. Okay, sure. We park now on the street, but you said street parking will just be for park users?
Oh, no. So in order to avoid people coming and parking all day along that edge that would be using the light rail or the bus, and I know there have been instances where people have parked, and so there's a time limit. The signs limit the amount of time that people can park on some of the streets in Mechanicsville. Either workers at Tunney's or the prospect of when we all get back to work, if whatever form that will be, that the parking is limited. There's a limited time on Stonehurst.
If I can just clarify though,
Mhm.
Louise, this project is not going to change any of the existing parking regulations in the area, right?
No, but we had discussed the possibility of allowing park users only, and that was a request from the community a couple of years ago to have parking on Stonehurst on the on the east side of Stonehurst. So limited parking near the building because we only provide access to accessible parking spots.
Okay. So, yeah, any sort of changes to the parking regulations on the street would go through. The easiest way is to go through my office.
Yeah.
But the parking regulations that are currently in effect aren't going to change as a result of this project.
Oh no.
And
no, we won't control any of that. But
yeah, so that's if we want to talk about parking on Stonehurst on Bayview, give my office a call and we'll set up a chat with Tom.
Okay, great.
Yeah, and the person who submitted the question has followed up saying, that is the question. If only park users can park on Stonehurst, then where do residents park?
Yeah, it was only, I think someone brought this up at the last meeting or in comments afterwards, and that was to create like parking between X place and X place by the building to allow for 4 cars or 3 cars designated to the park.
But just to clarify,
Yes.
this project is not going to change any of the existing regulations for street parking in the area. So,
Okay.
and as always, I'm happy to have parking discussions with residents, just give my office a call, but the parks planners wouldn't be involved in that discussion.
Okay, thanks, Jeff. And Lori adds, we need to promote parking on Bayview roads. I find park users don't realize it's there and free.
Yeah.
I think it has to do with Google Maps, because I live in Hintonburg, and if I Google Map LarochePark, it always tells me to take Scott Street and then go down Carruthers when it's super accessible for me to just walk down Bayview and then cut through the opening there that we were just discussing. So it could be something to do with tech.
I think we changed the park address to Stonehurst. And so Google is taking you to the park address, which is Stonehurst.
That's a good point.
Yeah.
Okay, what is the point in leaving the lights on when the fields are not used? For example, rain.
Again, it's for safety when people are walking their dogs, and it is, the parks do stay open till 11, so the lights aren't always on from what I understand. But even in the rain, people will walk their dogs. So.
And the lighting is, you know, we can set it one way when the park opens, and then working with the park staff on the operational side, we can also continue to play and adjust with hours of lighting and stuff like that. So the key decision that you need to make right now is, where is the lighting going to go? And you've done that. You know, how's it going to be powered, et cetera, et cetera. But the actual hours for the lighting and all that sort of stuff can change and evolve through the years. It's not going to be hardwired in to go off at 11.
Okay, thank you. Last question in the queue. Is there a designated bike parking area?
We will add parking stands for bikes, but there won't be a large designated bike parking space. It will be for users of the park.
Do you know how many bike parking spots will be here?
Usually 5 to 6 with the bike stands. So.
Can we get more?
We could try.
I personally, like, obviously I get down to LarochePark fairly often in the summer, and it's a bike ride, and I have been unable to find bike parking in the past. So
okay.
Yeah. Gets
we
full.
We can talk about that, Councillor. Yeah.
Or just one spot for Councillor Jeff Leeper.
Okay, well,
didn't even joke about that. It's getting late.
Those are all the questions in the Q&A, and we've gone over time. So, a comment has come in. Thanks for considering stuff. Of course, that's what we're here for. So, Jeff, do you want to wrap it on up?
No, just thank you very much, everyone, for attending. The community has generously come out to multiple consultation sessions. And I think, you know, what we're seeing from the planners is that they have heard you and they've listened, and the design is the most optimal way they can take all that feedback that you have provided them with multiple different competing priorities and interests, and come up with something that is going to serve a very large part of our population really, really well. I don't know if there was anyone here this evening from Somerset West Community Health Center. They are obviously one very valuable user of the field house. I have satisfied myself that they've had a very good discussion with the planners to ensure that that building is going to help them provide the services that they continue to need to provide in our neighborhood. And so I'm really looking forward to being able to provide provide them with a building that is going to serve really, the most vulnerable youth in our neighborhood in a really rich way. And to the project team, thank you very much. You have demonstrated a lot of patience. This is an innovative project, maybe not from the outside where, a field house in a park or something that cities know how to build. Getting around the remediation, working through all the different silos of budget that are at the city is not easy. And I'm grateful for the going over and above a simple park project that you've put the time into. And Lori and the Mechanicsville Community Association, thank you so much for your patience with this project as well. So I will leave it at that and just say thank you very much, everyone. Good night. No questions were left in the queue, so there's nothing to copy and paste to publish later.
There's one question. Have we
Is there
thought
another
about
one in?
renaming the park to honor Jeff?
It's I want a bike cage named after me at City Hall. If I get hit by a bus.
Okay, knock on some wood, please. Sounds good. And someone said woohoo, so woohoo. Thank you, everyone.
Thanks, everyone. Have a great night.
Thank you.
So, Jeff, I think the question was they wanted the questions that were answered. Like,
oh, okay.
questions. But my cursor can't.
I've been able to do this.
I don't know why I can't.
did it for one of them. Are you on a Mac?
No, I'm on the Office HP.
Yeah, well, there's the issue.
Well, it's the Office computer.
I'm copying it right now.
Like, I can select it one at a time, but that's too time consuming.
I'm almost there.
Thank you, Louise.
I had a question for you. Each time I wasn't sure when I had the slide presentation up, whether if I moved my cursor to either mute or see if my camera's off. I realized if my camera was off, then no one would be able to see the presentation. So, but could you see other things coming up, like the questions and answers, or?
No, when you were full screen, we just saw the presentation, and any computer activity we didn't see, and yeah.
Okay, great. I just wasn't sure because it was coming up on my screen, and I thought, oh damn, okay, I can't do that. So all right.
No.
All right, that's great to know for next time.
Yeah, for sure.
So I've been able to get everything that's in that list copied. There's some weirdness, but
that's probably my fault, Counselor.
Kevin.
Kevin got in trouble. Sorry, Kevin.
Yeah, sorry. You booked me late at night, and yeah, sorry about that. I'm just hanging on to say sorry.
Lori's question about lighting for the ultimate frisbee apparently came through at 3:21 a.m.
Oh, that's weird.
Yeah, but okay. So I've got everything, and we can probably get that edited in a usable format for residents who request it.
Okay, perfect.
Amazing.
Okay.
Kevin, thank you very much. You should be very proud of your team. They're doing amazing work here.
Oh, I'm impressed. I'm very impressed. It's been 2 years, and truly, I think I've engaged with them maybe 4 times, max 5. They do it on their own.
Louise, Marietta, thank you so much. David, much appreciated. Have a great night, all.
Thank
Fiona,
you.
as always, thank you.
Thank you, everyone.
Good night.
Thanks, Fiona.
Bye.
Everybody.
Good night.